Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO Targeting series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and we've got an exciting update for you guys tonight because over the weekend the CDI core got sound. Because it was a holiday weekend, it took me a minute to get around to this, but there is now audio in some of the games on CDI. So this video is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be less talking and more listening. I'll come back in about 45 seconds, but this is what the Philips CDI sounds like, at least today, on the MiSTer FPGA core.
It sure is boring around here.
My boy, this piece is what all true warriors strive for.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to.
I wonder what Ganon's up to indeed, but I know what Slamy's been up to, getting sound in this core, and do be aware that not every single game is going to have sound, and some games are going to have absolutely terrible sound to your ears. That's not a knock on the core, this is how they get developed, but I definitely recommend if you're going to play around with the CDI core, keep the volume very low and then increase it to see what you're getting, because some games are going to sound pretty close to accurate, other games are going to be so loud and distorted, you're definitely not going to want to have your speakers at a normal volume, or else you're going to scare the ever-loving hell out of yourself. But honestly, this core is progressing way faster than I think anyone thought it would. First we got to the BIOS screen, then games started playing, then more games started playing, and now we have some of the audio in. Obviously it's not a finalized version of it, but just hearing the CDI come through MiSTer is a ton of fun, and because of course some of the Zelda games have all of that voice acting, you're finally going to be able to understand the story, and it's going to go something like this.
Help! Ganon froze the fountain! I'm stuck!
I mean, at least now we know what Ganon was up to in the beginning of the video, but moving on, you can now get into Rise of the Robots and actually get some gameplay in. It seems to be running a little bit fast still, and honestly, Rise of the Robots is one of those games, it isn't the best title around, but it does work on CDI, and it is good evidence of just how far this core has progressed, even in the last couple weeks. It's only been like 2.5 weeks since I did the first CDI preview video, when Slamy put the first core out that was actually playing games, and normally you can kind of just cheese this game and do a jumping kick and beat every single enemy within it, but there seems to be something about the timing here that prevents that from happening. But honestly, this is the first time of the 3 preview videos I've ever even been able to show you footage in game of Rise of the Robots, so it does go to show that it is getting better. I'm going to try to let you listen to some of the soundtrack. I believe the next portion will not throw up any sort of flags, but if you hear me talking ever so shortly, you'll know that it did. But listen to this. Hopefully you got to hear that after all, but as we move on to the actual intro sequence here of Rise of the Robots, last time I showed this to you, it was over in like 4 seconds because it was loading so incredibly fast. Now this new core with the sound is going to load slower, so if you think things like the Zelda games aren't working, just go ahead and wait longer on the black screens. It is loading in the background, it just takes a little bit, but sometimes it does end up hanging, so you might want to reload again. Now moving over to something like Jeopardy, this is the last time I showed it to you, and I understand Jeopardy is not one of those best retro games of all times experiences, but it's basically on every single console back in the day, and you can at least see here as Trebek comes in, his actual FMV video avatar there does seem to be working relatively well. But I'm going to show you the same introductory sequence on the new core, and I'm going to let you listen to Alex Trebek's voice as well. Now do be aware the announcer that introduces him sounds like he came straight from hell. It is distorted as can be, and it's absolutely terrifying, but it's slightly loud, and I don't want to give you guys a jump scare, so just be aware that if you play this game, that's how it's going to go. And you'll see here the video even seems to be smoother. It does the exact same thing as far as corrupting that video in just a moment, but everything here is like 10% better than it was before. And that is the reality of the core. It is improving, but of course until we get that MPEG card, there's going to be some games that you just can't play whatsoever. But as we move on to the next little sequence here, listen to this audio. This is probably the best the core can sound.
The year is 50 BC. Gaul is entirely occupied by the Romans. Well, not entirely. One small village of indomitable Gauls still holds out against the invaders. And life is not easy for the Roman legionnaires who garrison the fortified camps of Tutorum, Aquarium, Laudanum, and Compendium.
He said you must re-enlist. He said to re-enlist?
I mean, that sounds good to my ear. You can understand the voice actor. All of the animations in this sequence are playing correctly. Everything just seems to be working exactly as it should. But of course, still, you can't actually get into the game. It's going to have a loading issue. But I would say Asterix is definitely the one title that shows the most promise as far as actually getting audio into the game and having all of the animations be what I would consider perfect real CDI hardware. But the next sound sequence, I know I'd have to let you listen to it or everyone would complain in the comments. So go ahead and listen to the absolute majesty that is one of these Zelda game's plot lines. Enjoy.
Your Majesty, Ganon and his minions have seized the island of Koridai.
How can we help?
It is written, only Link can defeat Ganon.
Great! I'll grab my stuff!
There is no time. Your sword is enough.
How about a kiss? For luck?
You've got to be kidding.
Squadala, we're off.
Wow! What are all those heads?
These are the faces of evil. You must conquer each.
I guess I'd better get going.
Here is the map. Where do you wish to go?
I mean, honestly, that sounds really good and approximately what I would expect out of a CDI, but I'm not a huge CDI fan, so I'm not an authority at this. But just so you know, I did find a collector who has multiple CDI units as well as basically a full set of games, so once this core gets more mature and it's ready to test against real hardware, I'll be able to get those captures in, because I do not have a CDI in my collection, nor do I have any games, so I would be the worst person to try to capture real hardware, because it just doesn't exist here. But honestly, even if this is running a little bit strange, even if the loading sometimes takes longer than it should, this is still an absolutely massive amount of effort that we've seen here in just 3 cores, and that is the fun part about MiSTer FPGA. Sure, one day you're going to get a Philips CDI core, it's going to be done and you can enjoy it, but you also get to follow along with the development and see all the absolute strange things that the CDI had to offer and how the hardware is kind of set up. But of course I'm going to give you one more sound sample of one of the Zelda games, because again, this voice acting is top notch. But I'll be right back.
Duke Onklet is under attack by the evil forces of Ganon. I'm going to Gamelon to aid him.
But Father, what if something happens to you?
I'll take the Triforce of Courage to protect me. If you don't hear from me in a month, send Link.
Impa?
Don't worry, Zelda. The Triforce of Wisdom promises the king will safely return.
Enough. My ship sails in the morning. I wonder what's for dinner.
Oh boy! I'm so hungry, I could eat an Octorok!
A whole month gone, and still no word.
I'm certain he's all right.
Yeah, that old Ganon's no match for the king.
Link, go to Gamelon and find my father.
Great! I can't wait to bomb some Dodongos!
Wake up, Impa. We're going to Gamelon.
All right, dear. I'll get the Triforce of Wisdom.
Although she says she's going to get the Triforce of Wisdom, like someone would say, I'm going to run to the corner store and pick up a pack of smokes, like it was no big deal whatsoever, even though we all know it's a pretty hard item to obtain in any Zelda game. But this is again one more taste of Rise of the Robots. It freezes here, and honestly, as a screenshot, you would never know the game isn't the best thing in the world. Once you actually play it, it can be a little bit janky, and that's my little CDI joke for the video. But honestly, Slamy is doing an epic job making this core through different iterations improve upon everything he's done so far, and now, at least in some games, you're actually going to be able to hear what's going on, and that's going to be a huge bonus. Next time the core improves, I'll do another preview video. If you have any games you want me to test, leave me a comment down below. But short of that, we're done. Go play some CDI, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.